So recently I've been playing a game called Ship of Fools with my friend, and it's basically based on the teamwork of both parts to keep the ship intact until the last boss. And despite the game be playable in single player, it's one of those games where it's better to play with someone else, you know. So that raised a question in my head that I often see myself thinking about it. But today I want to discuss more properly. And the question is, what exactly is a good co-op? What's up y'all, I'm Hack, and before we start talking about the concept of a good co-op, first we need to know exactly the definition of co-op. We all know the co-op stands for cooperative, and when we look for the meaning of the word from the dictionary, the description goes like this: doing something together or working together with others towards a shared aim. Now putting that description in a video game, we can say that co-op is playing the game alongside a friend, and since it says towards a shared aim, the aim could be beating the game together, winning a match in competitive, or, you know, just have some fun. Now I'll be discussing which of these aims may be the best for a co-op in a game. And to do so, I created 3 categories of co-op games based on the aims that I just listed before. And for each category I chose a game to represent the category itself. Now let's start with the first one, that is probably the most popular one, the competitive co-op. Here we have games based on PvP matches that only the team with the best cooperation are gonna win. And in this category we already have some famous titles like Valorant, Counter-Strike, Rainbow Six, but to represent it, I chose League of Legends, since it's the one that I play the most. So just to give a summary for those who may not know what the game is about, in the game we have one map, 2 sides, each one with a team. The goal is to one of the team invade the other team's base and destroy the called Nexus, that is kind of the heart of the team. Okay, now that I explained pretty much the basic, what is the co-op of the game? Well, the teams have an entire map to take control of, and controlling the map all alone is kind of impossible. So since the teams have 5 players in it, the rule is to each player take control of their part of the map, and theoretically, the team that have a total control of the map have an advantage over the other team, making it easier to invade the base. But remember when I said theoretically? Well, let me explain. Most part of the competitive games have a problem that makes their co-op the hardest of all the others, and the problem is called people, because in all of the competitive games, you go against another person. So it's not just a robot, it's someone that actually thinks, even though sometimes it doesn't look like it. So that makes it difficult to predict some actions, some decisions, and you never know how good the other person is gonna be, making it almost impossible to one team have total control of the entire map, unless they are playing against 5 brainless monkeys in front of the computer, and that actually can happen sometimes. So when we talk about 2 equally skilled teams, the team with the best harmony is gonna be the victorious of the match, and that's the exact word that defines the whole category: harmony. Cause think like a band. If one of the instruments gets out of a harmony, the whole composition is doomed, but most part of the time the mistake can still be repaired by another instrument. Now if one instrument breaks in the middle of the performance, then it becomes extremely hard to recover the whole composition, unless you have a stock, you know. But when we go back to the co-op in competitive games, there is no stock. Depending on the level of the mistake that your teammates just made, they may break the game and lead your team to defeat. So at the end, the team that has a better harmony and cooperation to cover each other's mistakes are gonna be the one that succeeds the match. And if you think about, that could define the co-op of the game as a good co-op, right? Because you know, you have to create a good cooperation between your teammates to make the win even more possible in the match. So the co-op is good, right? Right? Well, it should be, if you weren't, for 2 reasons. First is the aim of the cooperation that we talked back then. Here the aim is to win, which is a goal that completely transforms the human being, making them sometimes do almost anything just to achieve the goal. But now to make it worse, we have the second reason, which is competition. Humans were based on the evolution of feeling better than the others. So if they were already gonna do almost anything to achieve the goal of winning, when it evolves the feeling of being better than another person, you can be sure that now they'll do anything, even forget their own principle to achieve their goal. So the cooperation becomes insanity, where some people, blind by the wish of winning the match, disrespect their teammate, their friends, and I have already seen some motherfuckers abandoning their friends for another person just because the person is better at the game. So competitive co-ops are not exactly good. It will always gonna depend on the mentality of who you play with, and let's be honest here, not everyone who plays these games have a good mentality. mentality. Okay, now let's go for the second category, the amusing co-op. In this category, we are gonna find games based on the only purpose of increasing the fun of the player. So basically any game that don't focus on the co-op multiplayer, but have it as an additional for the experience. And as time passed by, this category actually increased the amount of game because almost every developer is putting co-op on their gaming nowadays. We can mention, for example, the games that adds co-op into the main campaign. So Elden Ring, Remnant, or Far Cry. Also, we have those family friends games that are entirely focused on the only purpose of having fun with a friend or your family, like Jackbox Party, Little Company, or Mario Party. And then we have the shitty live service that the companies always try to release, focusing on the gains they can actually earn with the players, like Suicide Squad, Gotham Knights, or, you know, Marvel Avengers. Okay, but to represent this category, there are so many games that I actually had a hard time to choose the game. But I think that this one represents it very well. And basically everyone knows about it, Minecraft. Now, what is the co-op in Minecraft? Minecraft is a whole experience that can be played alone. Like, you don't really need to rely on someone to play the game. Everything can be done by yourself, from the buildings to the farming to even beating the game. But what happens when you play with someone else? What will change the game having 2 or more people playing at the same time? Well, besides the fact that the progression is gonna get faster, we also achieve the second goal, that is fun. It is true that Minecraft is a game that can be played alone, and some people actually prefer it that way, but reuniting with a group of friends for an evening playthrough from time to time, even if it is just to play it for like 3 hours and never open the game again for another 6 months, is really something worth it for the purpose of relax a bit and get out of that toxic game you were playing before, and also can even reignite a friendship that maybe was getting cold, you know. And let's make one thing clear here: every time you play with a friend, incredible things that would never happen if you was playing the entire game all by yourself tends to happen, and thanks to the internet, nowadays we can register incredible moments like this. So overall, is the co-op in this game good? Yes, but with some limitations, and you're gonna understand what I'm talking about in the next category. But before getting there, why don't you like the video and subscribe to the channel? Now for the last category, we have the fully co-op, and here we have games that makes the co-op its entire mechanic. So you have to beat the game with someone else, or maybe, you know, you can beat it by yourself if you have like 4 arms. And I'm gonna already tell you that this is my favorite category, and to represent it, I chose a special game for me that may not be the most famous one, but it is one of the best in this category. We Were Here. We Were Here is basically a game where you and your friends get lost and split inside an abandoned castle, and the only way to get out and proceed the game is by cooperating with your friend, where most part of the times both of you are gonna be in separated rooms, where the only way to proceed is when both resolve a puzzle in their respective rooms. But the magic is, your friend's puzzle have the clues in your room, and your puzzles have clues in your friend's room. Then by using a walkie-talkie as a way of communicating with each other, you both will eventually finish the game with one simple but powerful weapon, that is the cooperation. And at the end, incredible memories of the experience will live in your head forever. And yes, this is the best type of co-op for me, because remember about the limitations in amusing co-op games I just mentioned? These limitations are basically the fact that in those games, you can play co-op with your friends, but nothing will change the campaign to make the cooperation really needed. Most part of the time, the game only changes difficulty, but not the way you complete a level, the bosses, or the puzzles, making the co-op of the game basically a normal playthrough, but with someone else. And no, it's not a bad thing. You know, it's better having the feature than not having anything. But when you think about games like We Were Here, It Takes Two, or Operation Tango, everything's totally focused on the teamwork, and you don't feel like you are just playing the game with your friend, but you feel like you're actually cooperating with your friend, you know what I mean? And yes, that's the best type of co-op, and what I actually define a good co-op. But there are some problems with this, like the fact that the game is entirely co-op makes a problem to everyone enjoy it, because not everyone have a friends to commit themselves into an entire playthrough of these games, and sadly, not everyone have friends that enjoy playing video games. And even though most of these games are beatable in a short amount of time, we still have It Takes Two, for example, that has almost an average game length. And when you think that there are people who wanted to play the game but couldn't because of the requirement of having another person together, it is kind of sad, you know. So what if the developers found a way to resolve that kind of problem? Well, there is actually one game that made that movement back then, and that's Portal 2. Portal 2 had this big idea where you you could complete the main campaign of the game all by yourself, but you also had a totally different co-op campaign with a whole new levels and puzzles to play with your friends. And that would be a great solution for the problem listed, because you will not have a campaign fully based on only playing with your friends, but you could still play with it in a real cooperative way. And that would be the case if we were living in a perfect world. But we all know that this is never gonna happen, because why would the companies put effort in an entire new campaign when they can just release a normal campaign, then put a co-op mode in it, and we are still gonna be satisfied with the final product? And let's be honest here, at the end we all enjoy much more a single player game than the co-op's multiplayer one. So my final conclusion of what exactly is a good co-op is a short game with fully co-op aspects. Cause you know, in this type of game you get to experience the whole thing cooperating with your friend in a way that both needs the other to complete the game, but you two not get tired of it because it's too long or something. And I'm not gonna belittle the amusing co-op type, cause I'm gonna tell you something. I basically beat the entire Dark Souls 3 with a friend and it was very funny. There are moments I'll never forget in the game. Now for the competitive co-op, honestly, fuck them. I hate them all. And that's basically the video. Comment what you think about the co-op games and what exactly is a good co-op for you. And if you want a more opinion videos like this one, I invite you to watch this video right here, where I talk about me losing my essence in video game. Thank you all for watching, and until someday.